All right, friends, today I'm going to design an imaginary friend, and I'm going to start by making thumbnail sketches. Thumbnail sketches are just ideas or brainstorms, and then I'm going to choose my favorite. So to start, I want to think of something I'd like my imaginary friend to help me with. I think I want an imaginary friend that will comfort me when I'm feeling sad. Maybe he'll come up and give me a hug, okay? So I have this worksheet that shows you different body shapes you could choose for your wild thing. Are these the only body shapes in the whole world? No, these are just some examples. So there's my imaginary friend's body. Here's my imaginary friend's head. Eyes. And I think I'm gonna do his mouth like this. Like he has cute little teeth that stick out that could be dangerous, but they're actually not. I'm gonna do paws for hands. I'm gonna give him a big heart because he's a nice monster that gives hugs when you're feeling sad. I think he's gonna have like webbed feet, like a duck. That's kind of silly. And then maybe I'll add some extra details. Maybe this monster has a bow in her hair, but she also has horns. So there's one monster idea. Now I'm gonna just move to my next box and make another monster idea. This one has an oval for a head, and then I think I'm gonna do this kind of shape, or I'm sorry, an oval for the body and this kind of shape for the head. This one I'm gonna do eyes like this. I think I'm gonna do a beak, like a bird beak. I think I'm gonna give him hands. And this one's job is still to make me feel happy when I'm sad, so I'm still gonna do that little heart. Maybe this one has feet like this. And you can add any other details that you think of. Maybe this one wears a hat. I think that could be silly. So there's my second idea. I'm gonna work like that for 2 more ideas, and then I'll show you how we will change these onto good paper. All right, now that I have 4 different ideas for my imaginary friend, I'm gonna pick my favorite. And I think my favorite is this one that looks a little bit like a cat. So I'm gonna take a pastel and I'm gonna draw it onto a bigger, good piece of paper. I can make changes if I want as I'm working. So my cat had a little bow in her hair. She has eyes, nose, mouth. The body was kind of like a rectangle with little feet. Now when I'm doing this, I'm gonna be cutting it out. So in my first drawing, I made a tail like this, but I need to make it a shape instead of a line. So all I'm gonna do is loop back around and connect, and that turns that into a tail instead of just a line. Now since this is my final copy, I'm gonna add a little more detail. I think mine has eyelashes. I think he has some hearts on him. And I'm gonna make texture. So this one is a furry, heart-covered friend. Maybe the texture on the tail is straight lines. It's a little bit different. And then I'm gonna use my pastels to add color. And since this is an imaginary friend, it could be a blue cat. That's okay. If you used black to start like I did, you kind of wanna stay off the black with your pastel, and I'll show you why. I'm gonna go over it right here on this heart area. And you can see that my pastel doesn't really look like that nice bright blue anymore. It's kind of like a bluish black. So if you're worried that this might happen to you, maybe don't start with black. Start with a light color like yellow because it won't mix so much with the black. But if you do use black, just try to stay off it when you're adding color. So I'm just filling this cute little imaginary friend with my color, changing colors whenever I feel like it. So I'm gonna do some yellow for the hearts. And remember, this is one that makes me feel happy when I'm a little bit down or sad. So I'm picking colors that I like, that I feel like are happy colors. Maybe your imaginary friend helps you with reading. Maybe it helps you do your homework. Maybe it plays with you when you're lonely. All right, now my imaginary friend is all colored. Next time I see you, we're gonna make him a land to live in. All right, now I'm making my imaginary friend's land. My imaginary friend's job was to make me feel happier when I'm a little sad. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make my imaginary friend's land a spot that would make me feel happy. I like to visit the mountains and do things outside. So I'm gonna make my imaginary friend's land in the mountains. I love the sunset. And your imaginary land doesn't necessarily need to make sense. Like, I love going to the mountains around here, but I also love palm trees. Are there palm trees around us? No, there aren't. But this is an imaginary world. So it's okay if it doesn't necessarily look like a real location. Maybe I'll do, a little bit of rain over here just to keep the grass green, but also maybe this is where I feel sad and then my imaginary friend comes in with her sun and makes me feel better. Maybe I'll make some big flowers because flowers make everybody feel happy, I think. When I'm done drawing, then I'm going to be using watercolors to paint. This is called a watercolor resist. To use watercolors, I start by waking up my paint. I dip in the water, then swirl in the paint, and add color. When I wake up the paint, there should be quite a bit of water in it. It should be like a big puddle with that color, and your paint should always go really smoothly. It should never feel dry or scratchy while you're painting. So again, I'm putting water into the paint and stirring it up. When I'm painting, I'm remembering that my paintbrush is like a ballerina. Ballerinas always dance on their tiptoes. They never ever scoot around on their bottoms because nobody wants to go to the booty scooting ballet. So tiptoes around your paper, and you can use colors that aren't realistic. I don't really have purple mountains, but I feel like that could make me feel happy, so I'm gonna do it. Maybe some pink grass up front. So it can be as realistic or not realistic as you would like. Here's some orangish red grass in the front here. When I'm done with this, I'm going to let it dry. And then I am going to put my monster, or not my monster, silly me, my imaginary friend on top. One last thing is my sun. All right, this baby's ready to dry and it's ready for my friend. Okay, now it's time to cut out my friend. I'm gonna start with a pair of scissors and I'm trying to go on the outside line as closely as I can without cutting off any part of my friend. You'll notice that I'm using my left hand because I'm right-handed to hold the paper. When I go around a turn like this and there's paper hanging, I just trim it off. So I'm going around and anything that's getting in my way, like that's annoying me right there. So I'm just gonna trim it off. When I get to a corner, I turn my scissors. If you have a spot that's really tight, you can raise your hand and ask for help. I'm gonna go around that bow and around the legs. So I'm turning my paper to get around the legs. My right hand's in charge of the scissors and my left hand is in charge of the paper. And if you accidentally cut a little piece off, I'll show you how you can reattach it. So let's say I accidentally cut off one of my legs. That's no big deal. What I'm gonna do is flip my friend over to the back and trace with glue. I'm going around the outside of my friend and I'm gonna stick them wherever I want them in their landscape or their world. This little foot's popping off there, I must have missed it. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to that part that I cut off. That was his back leg. And I'm gonna put glue on it, and I'm just gonna treat it like it's a puzzle. I'm just putting the puzzle back together. And now I have my imaginary friend. My imaginary friend has a very important job of helping me feel happy when I'm sad. It comes and gives me hugs, and you can see that it's covered in hearts to show that it's a lovey friend.